Hello everyone, once again class is in session. Now it's time to take a look at Monday Night Raw, which of course emanated from San Diego, California. Lovely sunny San Diego this week. And just before we begin as well, shouts out of course to my boy Lindsay Dorado. Keep on rocking in the free world. He wasn't on this show. None of the cruiserweights are anymore. I just wanted to give him a shout out. Now there was a lot to get through this week on Monday Night Raw. Yes, of course, it only lasted 3 hours. It only lasted 3 hours like every week, but they packed a lot in this time. So let's get straight on to the opening segment, which, as tradition dictates, did not open with a wrestling match. That came a little bit later on. Instead, we were greeted by the majestic view of Kurt Angle and his second in command, Constable Baron Corbin. Corbin was dressed this week not like the guy that James Bond kills at the end of the movie, not the main bad guy, but the one he kills right at the start, the underling, the sort of, not the henchman, the even lower one than the henchman. He was dressed like a weird sort of pimp. He had a chain and a strange waistcoat. He looked like a heel. I mean, you know what? He looked like a heel. Fair play to him. Angle revealed that, right, this Raw got off to a strange start because Angle got on the microphone and revealed that the expected main event of Extreme Rules, that multi-man mysterious match for the #1 contendership to Brock Lesnar, is not happening anymore. He said there's been trouble negotiating with Lesnar and that he's pulled out of, you know, his title defense. What? Right, obviously this is like 99% of work, right? But it's a very odd way for WWE to try and get heat on Brock Lesnar. WWE have made themselves look a little bit weak here, which is strange considering they never make themselves look weak. Cast your minds back to 2001, where it was a really important feud with WCW. It was the big dream invasion angle that everyone had desperately waited for, and then WWE couldn't bear to make themselves look weak in that, and it really affected the storyline, and it was just too one-sided for the most part. But they care about getting Roman Reigns over so much as the people's champion and the hero that they made themselves look weak in negotiations with Brock Lesnar. And we're all meant to cheer Roman because he's the resilient force, he's the rebel coming through. It boggles the mind. Reigns did come out as well and did his whole thing where he just stood there like, you know what, Kurt? I just want to hear what you've got to say face to face, because he's so bloody sassy, and we love that, don't we? We don't love it, but it keeps on happening, doesn't it? It keeps happening. Then Bobby Lashley came out, the other, you know, big front runner to challenge Brock Lesnar, and he said that Roman Reigns, well, he burned him. He said, you've been trying and failing to beat Brock Lesnar for about 3 or 4 years now. And I was like, oh, he's dropping truth bombs all over the place. Then Roman Reigns came back with a truth bomb of his own, which was very unique in that it wasn't true. He said, I don't know if everyone here remembers, but about 10 years ago, Bobby Lashley was in the main event of WrestleMania. No, he wasn't. This really annoyed me in the opening segment. Like, WWE are just changing an old established fact in their history. They are now expecting us to believe that Bobby Lashley headlined a WrestleMania, which he of course didn't do. They've just misreported the facts to us. Is this 1984, the novel, not 1984, the year itself? But if it was 1984, the year itself, they'd probably be telling us the Bobby Lashley main event at that WrestleMania as well, which would have been, by my calculations, WrestleMania 0. Yes. Then, when everything came to a head, the Revival came out again and challenged Lesnar and Reigns once again, as they did last week, to a tag team match, which, we'll talk about the match in a second, but I didn't really enjoy the booking, particularly since they'd done it last week. I didn't like this segment for a few reasons, and that's why I'm going to give it a D. Everyone promoed to the best of their ability, but sadly, no one in the ring was a top-tier promo guy in WWE. That's not the main reason I didn't like it, though. The main 2 reasons I didn't like it were the lying, telling us that Bobby Lashley had been in the main event of WrestleMania, and also telling us that that they couldn't negotiate with Brock Lesnar, making themselves look really weak. It seemed a bit cheap to me, a little bit cheap. A D might seem harsh, but I had a lot of issues here. Now on to that match itself, the Revival, Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder against Roman Reigns and Bobby Lashley in a repeat of the match we saw last week. Kurt Angle went, get a referee out here, we're going to have that match right now. Doesn't hurt to say please, Kurt. You could have gone, please can we have an official out here, one qualified to take control of the match, but instead he went, get a referee out here now. And I thought, that's not great for backstage morale, come on Kurt. The match obviously suffered a little bit because it's been so soon since we saw it last week, but it was very different to last week's in that the Revival bloody won. Dash Wilder got a pinfall on Roman Reigns. What is going on? Has this match just stepped out of my own dreams in my head and into reality? It was very odd indeed. Obviously the whole story was that, you know, Lashley and Roman can't coexist and it cost them the match. Obviously Roman was distracted, he just speared Scott Dawson and Lashley wasn't really involved to help him and he quickly got rolled up by Dash Wilder and then Lashley blamed him afterwards. Very unique. I was not expecting the Revival to win this at all. The match itself was fine. I'd have preferred if this was the only match between the two and if last week's just had never happened, but at the same time, it was pretty good and a surprising result as well. I'm going to give it a B. I was shocked. Dash Wilder, the new big dog of WWE. Next up, a match between Curtis Axel, obviously one half of the #1 contenders to the Tag Team Championship, and Matt Hardy, one of the Tag Team Champions. There was an exchange of promos before the match where the B Team continued to do their imitations of the Tag Team Champions. It was still pretty funny. They coughed because there was too much smoke about, which was quite a nice little touch. But then the match itself was a really peculiar one. It lasted about a minute long and Curtis Axel won when Matt Hardy slipped sort of off the turnbuckle and Axel sort of turned it into a kind of improvised crossbody and picked up the flash pinfall. I was like, wow, there's a lot going on here. This is very strange, especially after the match where Bray and Matt sort of led a round of applause for the challengers, which I'm reading as mind games. I'm going to give this a C-. It was too short to really accurately grade. Originally, I was going to give it a C, but I changed it to a C- just because I think this feud would have benefited more if the two teams just hadn't had any physical contact until their eventual Tag Team Championship match, and they could have just tried to out-spooky each other and out-promo each other. But instead, we've got that sort of very WWE thing where one half of either set of teams has a singles match and it doesn't really solve anything. But there was nothing offensive, so I think a C- is totally fair, and I hope you agree. Next up, the authors of Pain are back, and one of them has even grown his hair a little bit to make it a bit easier to tell which is which. I think it was Reza that had... Yes, it was Reza that had grown his hair. Akam still keeps his shaved down. Yeah, if I've got that wrong, I'm going to look like a bloody fool. The pair were stomping their way to the ring, obviously without Paul Ellering, which has caused a lot of unhappiness online, but they were stomping their way to the ring, barged into Titus O'Neil of Titus Worldwide, and then Titus is suddenly the locker room leader and just went, you two need to behave yourselves and be a bit kinder and more courteous to everyone backstage. We all work really hard as a team to put on a great show and you two are ruining it, you big old bullies. They're gonna destroy him next week. They're gonna absolutely rip him limb from limb. The authors then had their match and beat two, jobbers, two local enhancement sort of talent dudes. And it was really bone crunching and short, and I got the point of it entirely, which is why I'm going to give it a C+. Nothing spectacular, of course. It's hard for true squash matches to be that entertaining, but it got the point across that the authors of Pain are back and they're going to, tear up the Raw tag team division. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they were tag team champions very, very soon. Also, Titus Worldwide got involved after the match because they were continuing to beat down the poor jobbers, and then Titus Worldwide fought them off, and it was all a bit like, right, let's see what happens. And I'll tell you what's going to happen. As I mentioned before, Titus O'Neil's going to be just literally ripped in half, and I feel really bad for him. Next up, a really weird promo and a really long promo as well. I really like Alexa Bliss, of course. I think she's one of the best promos in wrestling right now. She was joined by Mickie James. Mickie's back. She kind of just drifts in and out of being her best friend. Sometimes she's not there. I guess. I mean, it's fine. It's fine. They took to the ring and there was a whole hype package for Alexa Bliss, which was pretty long, and then they cut a promo, which was pretty long as well. This segment, I don't like to say it, but it did drag quite a bit. Basically, Alexa was mocking the rest of the women's division. She was saying, where's my competition? Ronda's been suspended for 30 days, Nia's laid off with an injury, and then Natalya came out and went, you've not gotten rid of me yet, I'm back and I'm gonna kick your ass, Alexa. Thankfully, she didn't cut the promo like I did, otherwise it would have just seemed entirely non-threatening. But then, unfortunately, with the last few sentences of her promo, Natalya kind of undid everything Alexa and Mickie said, which kind of rendered the whole long promo we'd just seen entirely pointless. She went, the whole point of the promo, of course, was that Ronda's not here and Nia's injured. And then Natalya came out and went, Ronda will be back soon, by the way, and Nia's with me right now. I'm not like Mo, Scott, here she comes. Sour taste in mouth. I'm going to give this a D+. Of course, Alexa's delivery and Mickie's delivery was entirely on point all the way through. And, in the hands of somebody less charismatic, this promo would have felt even twice as long as it was. And it already felt pretty damn long. But it still gets a low grade. Wow, it's going on quite long. Am I gonna have to leave the building? I'm gonna get up. Okay, the fire alarm's over. We're all right. We've not perished in the flames. We're all good. Let's just crack on. So the last segment got a D+. Now on to the match itself, Natalya versus Alexa Bliss. No, I didn't enjoy this. I get the point that Alexa's like a cowardly heel and shouldn't really be able to defeat a technician, a heart, you know, trained in Canada and all that sort of stuff. Shouldn't be able to defeat a technician like Natalya in a straight singles match clean, but have her win by cheating or have her run away or something. Don't have her lose a week after winning the title back. Clean, tapping out in the middle of the ring to the sharpshooter. This gets an E, which sounds very harsh, but it was another short match, like the third short match in a row when I was desperate for some wrestling. It also, you know, featured quite sloppy action, I think. It wasn't the best match on the show by a long stretch. But the main reason this gets such a low grade is the baffling booking. I really didn't like this. Next up, a 6-woman tag team match between the Riott Squad on one side, and on the other side, the mishmash babyface team of Sasha Banks, Bayley, and Ember Moon. It feels like there's been a lot of 6-woman tag team matches recently, actually, especially on Monday Night Raw. But regardless, the Riott Squad made their way to the ring and continue to do their thing where they just break stuff backstage and be horrible to people. I thought that was just a gimmick last week when Kurt Angle couldn't keep control of Raw, and that was the whole point of the show. But it looks like the Riott Squad are just continuing to do so. Jinder and Sunil Singh were having a photo shoot, you know, lovely photo shoot backstage, and they came and just broke the camera and then walked off. But it's all right. Jinder didn't care because he's tranquilo now, and I can't wait for him to join LIJ over in New Japan. The match was fine. The heels got the win when Ruby Riott rolled up Sasha Banks because the others were all preoccupied fighting on the outside. But the story here wasn't about the match. It was definitely about the post-match where Bayley finally snapped, and she didn't even hang about. She just dove in the ring immediately after Sasha lost and started battering her. It was quite incredible how positive the crowd response for this was. We've been waiting for this for so long. And while I was a bit annoyed because I thought this should have happened maybe after the Rumble or after Elimination Chamber, and it got delayed too long, better late than never, you know. It was finally great to see Bayley unload a lot of fire onto Sasha Banks. And even though I think she's meant to be the heel now in this, it was great to see the crowd get really behind Bayley. Hopefully, this is the big boost that she's needed for so long. This gets an A-. The match was all right, but I really enjoyed the post-match. I really enjoyed finally seeing Bayley snap. Hopefully, this is it. Hopefully, this kicks off their feud and they don't go back to being uneasy friends again next week. So yes, A-, and just listen to that crowd reaction. And bonus points as well for Bayley standing over Sasha Banks on live television and going, "You're not just..." I can't say it, but she did. She bloody said it. Next up, No Way Jose versus Mojo Rawley. It was a bit weird, actually. This match never actually took place. Mojo came out and took issue with No Way Jose's entourage, all the rosebuds or whatever we call them now, especially the guy dressed as a cheeseburger. I think his name was Todd. The crowd really got behind him, which was lovely to see. Mojo ran him down. I kind of enjoyed his heel work. He said, you know, "You're never going to be a WWE superstar. This is as close as you'll be to a WWE superstar. You're on TV dressed as a cheeseburger. I hope you're making your mother proud." Wow. Then Jose got out of the ring. Mojo had said, "You know what, I don't want another match with you. You're not worth my time." No Way Jose got in his face and Mojo just popped him with a little weird punch, about as good as mine there. It was a strange one, but Jose sold it and fell to the floor. This gets a C. Mojo's heel work was really good, but it was pretty clear that this was just a filler segment. The punch was weird too. Yes, C-, not a C. C-. Next up, a big uneasy partners tag team match featuring one babyface on each team and one heel on each team. So on one side we had Kevin Owens and Braun Strowman, the best of friends, and on the other side we had the other best of friends, Finn Balor and Constable Baron Corbin. I really enjoyed the match. I thought it was really fun. I thought it was nice to see, you know, all the little comedic bits where the two teams didn't really get on. The ending was pretty unique as well, where, you know, Balor and Corbin got fed up with each other and just brawled down the ramp, got counted out and were like, "Oh, what? Oh, I forgot that I was in a wrestling match." And what saved the ending for me as well was how happy and shocked Kevin Owens was. It gets a B+, I really enjoyed it. But let's consider the post-match stuff separately because I've got a lot to unpack here. It didn't sit well with me at all. So yeah, the post-match was absurd. Basically, Kevin Owens was a bit scared of Braun Strowman. After all, he is the man who threw him off a massive ladder through a table at Money in the Bank. I totally understand why he's terrified of him. And then he went backstage to run away from him and get in his car. Strowman chased him for no reason. He's being a bully. He then referred to Owens as fat. He said he looked like he had a bowling ball stuffed up his shirt. And then he flipped his car for no reason. It pains me to say this, but winning the Money in the Bank briefcase has finally turned Strowman into that wacky John Cena-style WWE babyface that we all know and love. He's going to come out next week and refer to Kevin Owens as Sparkle Crotch or something like that. It's just terribly disappointing to see. This segment gets a D-. It frustrated me no end. Next up, the main event. Actually, as well, I've just thought, why did Strowman not get... Right, essentially, after the whole Bayley thing, Kurt Angle went, you need to go to anger management. You can't be doing this, all right, Bayley? Why doesn't Braun Strowman get told to go to anger management? He flipped his car and called him fat. And finally, the main event, which, you know what, after so many little segments that I didn't enjoy and so many short squash matches, finally they went, look, we'll just send Seth Rollins and Dolph Ziggler out there, get them to wrestle half an hour for the Intercontinental Championship, and maybe it'll save the show. And you know what? It sort of nearly did. It sort of did save the show because it was a fantastic match. The ending was very frustrating considering that it did go for nearly half an hour as well. Basically, Seth Rollins hit that sweet superplex into the Falcon Arrow. 1, 2, Drew McIntyre pulled the referee out for the DQ. I get it, I totally get why they've done this, but it was a bit sad to see after such a long match to see a non-finish. But, you know, I mean, I can't fault the effort of Rollins or Ziggler. They both did tremendously well, and I'm going to give this main event an A-. I'm going to give the show, a C- because it was a show of extremes. There was some great stuff, and there was some just not very good stuff at all. And I think that the negatives slightly outweighed the positives this week, which is why I'm going straight down the middle, but slanted slightly to the negative side with a C-. I enjoyed Bayley's heel turn. I enjoyed the main event as well. Even the finish sort of made sense. I enjoyed the dysfunctional tag match and stuff. There was quite a lot to enjoy in the show. At the same time, there was quite a lot not to enjoy, especially Braun Strowman not being a star. Also, Kurt Angle kind of taking the heat out of Bayley's turn a little bit by being like, you need to go to anger management, and Bayley being like, oh geez, I guess so. The Alexa thing was very long and she shouldn't have lost. And the opening segment where Kurt Angle went, we're rubbish, we can't get Brock Lesnar to defend his title, but we're not going to strip him of it. So I think a C- is fair on balance. I hope you agree. And if you don't, let me know why constructively in the comments section down below. Thank you very much for watching this video. I've been Jack from Cultaholic. You can follow me on Twitter at JackTheJobber. You can follow all of us at Cultaholic. And if you want to, you can check out our Patreon too, patreon.com/Cultaholic. And never forget, of course, to join us.